Once, many years ago, there was a puppet without strings. His name was Pinocchio. Now, Pinocchio was not an ordinary puppet, for he could walk and talk just like a little boy. But Pinocchio was not a little boy. He was only a puppet made of wood and cloth. This made Pinocchio very sad, for more than anything in all the world, Pinocchio wanted to be a little boy. One night, as Pinocchio was lying in bed counting the stars through his window,
41, 42, 43, 44.
He heard a strange voice.
Hello, Pinocchio.
What? Who's there?
It's me, Pinocchio, the magic cricket.
The magic cricket? Well, who are you?
I told you, I'm the magic cricket. And I'm here because you made a wish.
Yes, Pinocchio had made a wish. He wanted to be a little boy, and the magic cricket had come to help him. The magic cricket told Pinocchio that he would make him a real little boy if he would go to school and learn.
If you do this, Pinocchio, I will make you a real little boy.
Oh, yes, Magic Cricket. I shall go to school and learn, I promise.
The very next day, Pinocchio started out to fulfill his promise, to go to school and learn. He was almost to the schoolhouse when he heard...
Oh, what? What's that?
Step right up, folks. Step right up. The fun is about to begin. The fun is about to begin. Come ride the merry-go-round, the Ferris wheel, the roller coaster. Have fun, have fun, have fun.
Well, Pinocchio soon forgot all about his promise to the magic cricket. He forgot all about school. He rode on the merry-go-round and the Ferris wheel and the roller coaster and then on the merry-go-round again and around and around and around till he was so dizzy he fell down.
Hey, is this the way you keep your promise, Pinocchio?
Uh-oh, the magic cricket.
Yes, Pinocchio. And if you want to be a real boy, you'd better keep your promise and get to school and learn.
Oh, I will, Magic Cricket. I will, I promise.
So Pinocchio once again started for school. Again, he was almost to the schoolhouse when...
Hurry, hurry, giddy up, giddy up.
Oh, gee, look at those boys. They're sitting on a wagon drawn by donkeys, and they seem to be having so much fun. Hey, where are you going, boys?
Hello, Pinocchio. Well, come on along with us. We're going to the land of all play and no work.
The land of all play and no work? Oh, I couldn't do that. I must go to school.
Oh, don't be foolish, Pinocchio. You come with us, and you better hurry, or you'll be left behind.
Oh, no, wait. I'll come with you.
So once again, Pinocchio forgot his promise. He hopped aboard the wagon and he told the donkeys to giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, faster and faster and faster.
Donkeys, giddy up, giddy up, giddy up.
Faster and faster and faster till suddenly the wagon was gone, and so were the donkeys, and so were the boys, and Pinocchio was sitting alone by the side of the road.
Oh, is this the way you keep your promise, Pinocchio? Are you sure you want to be a real little boy?
Oh, yes, Magic Cricket. Yes, yes, yes. But the boys were having so much fun, and they were going to the land of all play and no work.
Oh, the land of all play and no work, eh? Pinocchio, feel your ears.
My ears?
Mm-hmm, your ears.
Pinocchio reached up, and instead of his pretty small ears, he felt two great, big, long, fuzzy donkey ears.
What? I have the ears of a donkey. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. Oh, but I'm turning into a donkey.
Oh, yes, Pinocchio. All boys who go to the land of all play and no work soon turn into donkeys.
Oh, no, Magic Cricket. Help me. Help me.
Oh, you'll have to help yourself, Pinocchio. If you don't want to be a donkey, you'd better go to school and learn.
Oh, yes.
was so frightened he rushed right to school and he studied harder and harder and harder.
Reading and writing and arithmetic and...
Hey, and lots more, too.
And soon, Pinocchio was no longer a donkey.
Nor a wooden puppet, but...
A real live boy! A real live boy!
Hello, this is Jane Pickens, and I'm going to tell you the story of Hansel and Gretel. A long time ago, in the middle of the forest, lived two children. The boy was named Hansel,
I'm Hansel.
and the girl was named Gretel.
I'm Gretel.
Their mother and father were very poor, but Hansel and Gretel were cheerful nonetheless. Sometimes Gretel would be so full of happiness that she'd want to dance with joy. Then she always said to her brother,
Hansel, come and dance with me.
Brother, come and dance with me. Both my hands I offer thee. Right foot first, left foot then, round about and back again. Now Hansel was a little bashful, and he would usually say,
I'd love to dance, Gretel, but I don't know how. Oh, it's easy.
with your foot you tap, tap, tap. With your hand you clap, clap, clap. Right foot first, left foot then, round about and back again.
That dancing made me hungry, Gretel. When will Mother and Father come home with food?
Oh, not till late. But I know what. Let's pick strawberries in the forest.
What if we lose our way?
We can drop crumbs of bread as we walk. That'll leave a trail for us to follow back home.
A wonderful idea, Gretel. Let's go.
Off they went into the forest, dropping breadcrumbs as they ran. Each carried a little basket, and just as they stooped to gather strawberries, Hansel said,
Gretel, look. See that little man over there?
Why, his hair is gold and his cheeks are red. I wonder who is he?
There stands a little man in the wood alone. He wears a little mantle of velvet brown. Say, who can the small man be, standing there beneath the tree, with a little mantle of velvet brown?
Now he's gone, Hansel.
Maybe we just imagined him, Gretel. Come, let's gather strawberries.
Soon, Hansel and Gretel filled their baskets. It was time to rush home, but when they looked for the trail of breadcrumbs...
Hansel, it's gone. That little bluebird up there, he's eaten all the breadcrumbs. We'll never find our way home now.
Oh, Gretel, what do we do?
Poor Hansel and Gretel. Night was coming to the forest. Suddenly, standing near them again, was a little man in velvet brown.
Who are you?
I'm your friend, the Sandman. It's time to go to sleep. First, I sprinkle you with sand. Then you sink down into the grass. And before you close your eyes, say your prayers so angels watch over you.
When at night I go to sleep, 14 angels watch to keep. To my head are guarding, to my feet are guiding, two are on my right hand, two are on my left hand, two warmly cover, two o'er me hover, two to whom 'tis given to guide my steps to heaven. And at that moment, Hansel and Gretel fell fast asleep.
But what a surprise awaited them when they awoke in the morning. Do you know the surprise? When Hansel and Gretel awakened the next morning, they leapt to their feet in amazement. For there, in the middle of the forest, stood the most unusual cottage they had ever seen.
Hansel, in my whole life I've never seen a cottage like that one.
What is the roof made of? And the windows? And that hedge that runs around the cottage?
Good things to eat, or am I dreaming still?
Gretel was not dreaming at all. That odor delicious. It was not a dream. The cottage was made of chocolate cream. The roof was all covered with Turkish delight. The windows with luster of sugar were white, and on all the gables were raisins to bite. And think, all around was a gingerbread hedge.
Oh, Gretel, I'm so hungry. Let's nibble a bit of the cottage.
Let's start with the gingerbread, then we'll go to the chocolate cream.
Then hurry, sister, hurry.
But just as they took their first bite, a voice shouted,
Stop! Stop! How dare you eat my house?
It was the Wicked Witch, and this wonderful house was hers. Hansel and Gretel wanted to run away, but the witch stared at them and stared at them and shouted, Hocus pocus, bonus jocus, malus locus, hocus pocus. And neither Hansel nor Gretel could move from the spot.
You there, Hansel. I think I'll lock you in a cage and fatten you up. And when you're good and fat, you'll make a delicious pie.
Poor Hansel. Ever so often the witch said,
Hansel, stick your finger out so that I can tell how fat you're getting.
But the witch couldn't see very well, and Hansel stuck out a piece of wood instead.
Oh, you're still very bony. Later I'll feed you again.
When the witch was out of sight, Gretel said,
Hansel, I have a way to fool the witch. I'll tell her you're fat enough to be baked into a pie right now.
Gretel!
Trust me, Hansel. I'll save you.
When the witch came back, Gretel lit the oven and told the witch to take Hansel out of his cage.
You'll make a fine pie, Hansel.
Wait a minute.
What's the matter, Gretel?
Something's wrong with the oven. Will you take a look inside, please?
Very well.
The Wicked Witch looked into the oven, and then...
Quick, Hansel, help me push her in.
With one push, the witch landed in the oven, went up in smoke, and disappeared forever. With that, the gingerbread hedge, and the roof of Turkish delight, and the windows made of sugar, all turned into little boys and girls, because that's what they'd been in the first place. The spell was broken and they were free. They sang and they danced and they shouted with glee. The children came and formed a ring, joined hands together and did sing. Then the Bluebird, who had eaten the breadcrumbs, appeared in the sky and led them all back to Hansel and Gretel's parents. Each child carried food and precious things from the witch's house, so the family was never poor again. And even today, you can see Gretel teaching Hansel her happy little dance. With your foot you tap, tap, tap. With your hand you clap, clap, clap. Right foot first, left foot then, round about and back again. And that is a story of Hansel and Gretel.
The Adventures of Robin Hood. This is John Rust, and I'm going to tell you the story of a man loved by all except the wicked. a man whose actions were as straight and clean as the flight of an arrow. Robin Hood. Many hundreds of years ago, the good King Richard, known as Richard the Lion-Hearted, left England to take part in the Crusades, the war against the heathens who had captured the Holy City. In his absence, he placed his brother John on the throne. As soon as he was king, John turned on the good nobles of the kingdom, stole their goods, and drove them out of England. Among these nobles were the old Earl of Huntingdon and his son, Robin.
Father, I've come to say goodbye.
Robin, where are you going?
To Sherwood Forest. King John has declared me an outlaw, and an outlaw I will be.
In Sherwood Forest, Robin Hood banded together with other young men like himself, banished by the wicked king. Men like Will Scarlet.
Outlaws we are, Will Scarlet, but outlaws such as never were before and never will be.
Just how do you mean, Robin Hood?
I mean this, Will. No, let me show you. Do you see those two fat men coming down the road?
I see them. A couple of merchants, rogues and wealthy.
And do you see that old woman in rags, weeping in sheer hunger?
I see her too.
Well, watch, and keep a hand to your arrow in case I need help.
Robin darted out from behind a tree and stood before the two men.
Hold!
What do you want?
To lighten your burden.
What do you mean?
Those two money bags you carry. Let me carry them.
Why you...
Easy now. I have you surrounded.
What?
On Robin's signal, the rest of his band, Will Scarlet, Friar Tuck, and the others, appeared on the road. The merchants had no choice. Each of them handed over his money bag. Robin tossed one bag to the ragged old woman.
Take this, my lady. You need it more than they do.
Oh, thank you, Robin Hood. Now I can feed and clothe my poor family.
The other is for ourselves, to feed us and clothe us, the merry men of Sherwood Forest.
And so, quickly, they became known far and wide. Robin Hood and his merry men of Sherwood Forest, taking from the evil to give to the poor, defenders of the weak and oppressed, the one hope of England's people. Sometime later, Robin set off by himself in the forest. He started across a bridge which lay across a stream, a bridge consisting of a single log of wood. But facing him, blocking the way, was a stranger, a tall man with broad, powerful shoulders.
I'm afraid there's only room for one of us to cross at a time.
That, unfortunately, is true.
Shall it be I?
I think not. I think it ought to be the better man. Stand and fight!
With only wooden sticks as weapons, they fought long and hard. Finally, with one quick, powerful motion, the stranger knocked Robin Hood into the stream.
Well done, fellow. What do they call you?
John Little is my name.
John Little? Well, I'll call you Little John. And I want you to join my band as my next in command.
And now the band of merry men was complete. And just in time, for King John had posted a reward of 10,000 pounds for the capture of Robin Hood. And none was trying harder to win that reward than the Sheriff of Nottingham. But before Robin came to grips with the sheriff, a truly unusual event occurred. One day, Robin Hood was challenged by a strange knight, slim and graceful, wearing a mask. They fought. But Robin won easily.
Now, let me take off that mask and see why you hide your face. What? It's Marion.
It was Maid Marian, his sweetheart, whom he had been forced to leave when he fled to Sherwood Forest. That night they were married by stout old Friar Tuck. In the midst of the celebration, Will Scarlet rushed into the camp.
Robin, I have news. The Sheriff of Nottingham is staging an archery contest with a golden arrow as the prize.
A golden arrow? What a prize.
His purpose in holding the contest is to lure you there.
That may be, but I shall go anyway. In disguise.
The next morning, a ragged stranger took his place among the archers competing for the golden arrow, just as the Sheriff of Nottingham made his opening announcement.
The distance will be 50 paces. You, that beggar over there, get out of the way.
I? Why, I'm one of the marksmen, sir.
You? A marksman? That's rich.
One by one, the finest bowmen in the land shot their arrows. Finally, one arrow lay in the exact center of the circle, a bullseye.
The winner is Adam of the Dell.
Pardon, Sheriff. I have not yet competed.
You? Well, maybe it will bring us a laugh.
Robin let fly. A perfect shot, right on top of the arrow in the center, splitting it down the middle. Robin had won.
A shot like that? Only one man in all this land can shoot so well. Robin Hood! After him! Catch him!
But the sheriff was too late. Robin was already speeding back to Sherwood Forest. As Robin entered the forest, a knight appeared and challenged him. In the midst of their battle, the knight suddenly put down his sword.
Enough. Enough. I didn't recognize you.
What? Why, it's your majesty. King Richard the Lion-Hearted, back from the crusade.
Robin Hood, your exile is over. You and your men, come back to your homes.
But Robin Hood and his men declined the king's offer. They preferred to remain in Sherwood Forest together, living their adventurous lives, taking from evil men to give to the poor. And that's the story of Robin Hood and his band of merry men.
This is Ian Martin inviting you to listen to the story of Sleeping Beauty. Many years ago, a beautiful princess was born to a king and queen. They were so happy they decided to hold a great banquet to celebrate the event. Invitations were prepared, and a special one with a big red ribbon tied in a bow was sent to the 7 fairies of the forest, for they were to be godmothers to the princess and bring her good luck. For days, the cooks and bakers worked like bees, making delicate roasts and fluffy pastries to please the dainty appetites of fairies. For the king and queen didn't want to offend the little people in the slightest. On the day of the great feast, the 7 fairies arrived, sailing through the air in a brilliant blue chariot drawn by 100 swallows. The fairies were delighted to be such honored guests. But then, at the height of the festivities, there was a great flapping of wings, a strange wild call, and through the banquet hall window flew an old gray gander, ridden by an old wrinkled fairy dressed all in black. The king and queen were alarmed. They suddenly realized that there was an 8th fairy, the fairy from across the mountains, whom they had not invited. And now she had come anyhow, without an invitation. The king and queen apologized and made her welcome. But the 8th fairy refused even to smile and stalked into a corner with a scowl fierce enough to make it thunder and rain. At last the time came for the fairies to give gifts to the little princess. The first fairy waved her wand and said, "She shall be good as gold." "She shall be the cleverest princess in the world," said the second. "And the most beautiful," said the third. "The happiest," said the fourth. "With the sweetest voice ever heard," said the fifth. "And everyone shall love her," said the sixth. Everyone waited for the 7th fairy to speak, but she had disappeared. At that moment, the 8th fairy stepped forward, waving her black wand, and said, "The princess shall stick her finger on the needle of a spinning wheel and die." Suddenly, out from behind a curtain stepped the 7th fairy. She had been hiding until she discovered what trouble the 8th fairy meant to bring. Now, she couldn't do away entirely with the 8th fairy's spell, but she could soften the blow. "The princess shall not die of the wound," cried the 7th fairy. "She shall only sleep for 100 years until a prince comes to awaken her with a kiss." Everyone was overjoyed that the wicked fairy's spell was partly broken. But they left the palace wondering if the little princess would prick her finger on a spinning wheel and become a real Sleeping Beauty. The king and queen decided to do everything in their power to protect their princess from the wicked fairy's charm. Soldiers were sent near and far to gather together every spinning wheel in their kingdom. They were burned or broken into little pieces, so that in all the land there was not a single spinning wheel left. The years went by, and as the 6 good fairies had prophesied, the princess grew up to be extremely beautiful, clever, with a nightingale's voice, and loved by all who knew her. One day, the young princess decided to explore the castle, which was very large and had rooms and hallways she had never seen. Soon she came to a winding staircase which led to an old tower. Up the stairs she went, opened a door, and stopped in amazement. There, in a little room in the tower, sat an old woman bent over a wheel, spinning. Now, the princess had never seen a spinning wheel, and she was entranced. The old woman beckoned to her. "Come, I'll teach you how to spin." As the princess touched the spinning wheel, she pricked her finger, and at that very instant fell to the floor into a deep sleep. The old woman, who was the 8th fairy in disguise, laughed and disappeared. Immediately, everyone else in the kingdom fell asleep. The guards at their posts, the cook at his stove, the king and queen on their thrones. The castle grew silent, as if night had settled over it. Years passed. 10, 25, 50, 75, until at last, in the 100th year, a young prince from a neighboring kingdom, hunting in the forest, spied the towers of the forgotten castle. Curious, he rode forward. But as he approached the castle within shouting distance, he found his way barred by a thick growth of thorns. The prince was determined to explore the mysterious castle. Using his sword, he hacked and chopped away at the overgrown plants until at last he had cleared a path right up to the castle door. Inside the lost castle, the prince was surprised to find everyone asleep. At last he reached the little room in the tower, and there before the spinning wheel he found Sleeping Beauty. The prince was so overwhelmed by her beauty that he couldn't resist stooping to kiss her on the cheek. At that instant, Sleeping Beauty awoke, and so did the guards at their posts, the cook at his stove, the king and queen on their thrones. The castle was alive again. Not long after that, the prince married Sleeping Beauty, and everyone was invited. And of all the guests, the princess was most happy to see the one who had saved her life more than 100 years before, the seventh fairy. And that's the story of Sleeping Beauty. Hello, this is Ian Martin inviting you to listen to the story of Cinderella. A long time ago, a beautiful girl named Ella lived in a house with her stepmother and two stepsisters. One stepsister had a high, shrill voice that went all the way up to there. And the other stepsister had a low, harsh voice that went all the way down to there. The two stepsisters were always dressed in beautiful gowns, and they did no work around the house. But as for poor Ella, she was always ordered about by her stepmother.
Make the bed.
Yes, stepmother.
Wash the dishes. Scrub the floor.
Yes, stepmother.
And when you're all through, sweep out all the cinders in the fireplace.
Yes, stepmother.
Yes, sweep out all the cinders in the fireplace. The poor girl was always sweeping cinders, and the rags she wore as clothes were so full of cinders that everyone called her Cinderella. One day, the king announced a grand ball at his palace. All the girls in the kingdom were invited. The stepsister with a high, shrill voice, and the stepsister with a low, harsh voice, each dressed in their finest. But as for Cinderella...
Cinderella, you're not going to the ball. You're staying home, among the cinders where you belong.
Poor Cinderella. She wept as if her heart would break. For she knew the king had a son, a handsome prince.
Oh, how I'd love to dance with him.
At that moment, there was a flash of light, and a little old woman stood before Cinderella.
Who are you?
The little old lady winked an eye and said, I'm your fairy godmother. You shall go to the ball. The fairy godmother waved her magic wand. In a twinkling, Cinderella's rags were changed into a beautiful gown.
Oh.
On her feet were glass slippers.
Oh.
And a pumpkin growing outside the cottage door changed into a splendid carriage with horses and footmen.
Oh, fairy godmother, how can I ever thank you? Now I can go to the ball.
As the carriage drove off, the fairy godmother shouted a warning. Cinderella, you must leave the ball when the clock strikes 12. For on the stroke of 12, your gown will turn back to rags, and your carriage will be a pumpkin once again. When Cinderella entered the ballroom, everyone turned to look at her. She was so dazzling and so beautiful that the prince asked her to dance with him at once. All evening long, the prince danced with Cinderella. The stepsister with a high, shrill voice and the stepsister with a low, harsh voice each tried to attract the prince's attention, but he had eyes for no one but Cinderella. Once, when Cinderella danced past her stepmother, the cruel woman said,
Somehow you look familiar. Have we met before?
Cinderella only laughed with glee
Perhaps we have.
and danced out of sight. Then suddenly, Cinderella heard the clock striking in the tower. It was striking 12.
Oh, I must go. Goodbye, Prince, and thank you for dancing with me. Goodbye.
prince called after her, but Cinderella kept running, out of the ballroom, into the courtyard of the castle. She ran so fast that she lost one of her glass slippers, but she had no time to turn back. Past the gate she went to where her carriage stood, and just as she reached it, the clock struck 12. In a twinkling, her beautiful gown was rags again, and the carriage had turned back into a pumpkin. Back to her cottage walked Cinderella to take her place among the cinders as before. But the prince had not forgotten her. He had found the glass slipper in the castle courtyard, and he was determined to find that beautiful girl that he danced with, for he wished to marry her. Find the girl whose foot fits this glass slipper, ordered the prince of his court messengers, and when you find her, she shall become my wife. Through the length and breadth of the land went the messengers, and finally arrived at the cottage where Cinderella lived. The stepmother greeted the messengers at the door.
I have 2 daughters. Surely one of them has a foot that fits the glass slipper?
First, the stepsister with a high, shrill voice tried the slipper on, but it was much too small. Then the stepsister with a low, harsh voice tried the slipper on, but it was much too big. The messenger was about to leave when Cinderella shouted,
Wait, let me try it on.
You? Go back to the cinders where you belong.
The stepmother tried to chase Cinderella away, but the messenger had his orders. He was to try the slipper on every girl in the kingdom. Cinderella took off her old, dirty wooden shoe and poised her foot above the glass slipper. And then in slipped her foot, fitting perfectly. When Cinderella was brought before the prince, he knew at once that she was the girl he had danced with. For despite her ragged clothes, her beauty and warm heart shone through. Soon they were married and lived happily ever after. And that's the story of Cinderella.
This is Ed Herlihy, and I'm going to tell you the story of Aladdin and his wonderful lamp. Many hundreds of years ago in the land of Baghdad lived a boy named Aladdin. He and his mother were very poor. So poor, in fact, that they often went hungry.
Mother, is there nothing else for supper tonight?
Nothing but this piece of black bread. Oh, how I wish your father were still alive. Now, who can that be?
I'll answer it, Mother.
At the door stood a tall, strange man. He wore a white turban of the purest silk. And his eyes were dark and mysterious.
Why, hello.
Aladdin, how are you, my boy?
I'm all right, thank you. Who are you, please?
Oh, who am I? Oh, I forget you've never seen me before. I am your uncle.
My uncle?
Yes, your Uncle Hamid. I'm a famous magician.
Hello, Uncle. Mother, this is Uncle Hamid.
Who? Uncle? Well, what are you talking about?
My dear, dear sister-in-law, how are you? I am the brother of your dear departed husband.
But he never told me about you.
What a sad oversight.
Well, come in.
Of course, the stranger wasn't really Aladdin's uncle. He was pretending. But why? Soon we'll know exactly why. Meanwhile, he performed feats of magic and showed Aladdin and his mother that he really was a magician. He made clouds appear and start raining. He clapped his hands and made thunder.
Now, Aladdin, I want you to come with me on a very important journey.
Where, Uncle?
To the most secret part of the forest.
Aladdin asked no further questions, but accompanied the magician into the heart of the forest. They came to an underground cave.
Now, my boy, deep down inside the cave, you will find a lamp. Bring it to me.
Aladdin slipped down into the cave. Deeper and deeper he went. Finally, he came upon a lamp. An old, dirty lamp that looked absolutely worthless.
Could this be what he wants?
Aladdin! Aladdin! Bring up the lamp!
Suddenly, a strange feeling came over Aladdin. He felt that he must not give up the lamp, but keep it for himself. For a long time, Aladdin remained silent, refusing to give up the lamp. Finally, the magician lost his patience.
Let him keep it, but I will have my revenge. I'll seal him in forever.
The magician intoned some mysterious words, and a huge rock fell into the entrance of the cave, sealing it off. Then he left, never to return. Poor Aladdin. He stood inside the pitch-black cavern holding the lamp and not knowing what to do. In the darkness, he stubbed his toe and fell heavily on the ground. Then, to his amazement, the cave was filled with light that flowed from a huge genie that appeared out of nowhere.
You called, Master?
Who are you?
The slave of the lamp. Whenever you rub the lamp, I appear to grant you your every wish.
Rub the lamp? Oh, I must have rubbed it by accident when I fell.
That is true, Master. Now command, and I obey.
Aladdin could hardly believe his ears.
Any command?
Yes, my master. Any command.
Aladdin's first thought was for his mother.
My mother has worked hard all her life, O genie. I wish her good things to eat and fine clothes and a comfortable home.
Your wish is granted, my master. Come and see.
In an instant, Aladdin was home again.
Mother, I'm back.
My son, look, a wonderful thing has happened.
And indeed, his mother was now dressed in fine clothes and lived in a fine house. Suddenly, there was a sound from the street, the sound of royal music. Aladdin sprang to the window and saw the Sultan passing by in his carriage, and with him was his beautiful young daughter. For years, Aladdin had secretly been in love with her. But how could he, unknown and the son of a widow, hope to marry the Sultan's daughter? How could he even enter the Sultan's palace without being stopped by the guards? Then Aladdin had an idea.
The lamp. Here, let me rub the lamp.
What do you wish, my master?
Take me to the palace of the Sultan.
Your wish is granted, my master.
In an instant, he was in the royal palace facing the Sultan's daughter.
Who are you?
My name is Aladdin. I love you and wish to marry you.
But how can that be? I am promised to another, Mephisto, son of the Grand Visor.
Aladdin was mainly concerned for the happiness of the maid he loved. When he looked at Mephisto, his heart grieved, for Mephisto seemed a cruel, evil man. So he asked advice of his mother.
Mother, how can such a man make her happy?
Perhaps he is not as bad as you think. But why don't you test him with the genie of the lamp?
Good idea.
He rubbed the magic lamp.
What do you wish, master?
Form an army of invaders. Have them appear at the gates of Baghdad, but to harm no one.
Your wish is granted.
When Mephisto saw the invading army, he hid deep in the city and refused to come out until they went away. The Sultan's daughter saw that Mephisto was a coward, but still she thought she should marry him. Next, Aladdin had the genie change him into a helpless old beggar.
Please, Mephisto, I am starving. Help me.
Help you? Get out, you lazy old man.
And the Sultan's daughter saw that Mephisto was cruel, but still she thought she should marry him. Finally, Aladdin ordered the genie, in disguise, to tell Mephisto that the Sultan and his daughter had quarreled, and that she had been disinherited.
Worthless woman! What good is she to me without her father's money?
When the Sultan's daughter heard that, her eyes were opened, and she refused to marry him. Soon she fell in love with Aladdin and married him instead. From then on, Aladdin and his bride used the magic lamp only to help others, to help the poor and the sick, and to create peace and happiness and prosperity throughout Baghdad. And that's the story of Aladdin and his wonderful lamp.